Well, why don't we go ahead and start? So, first of all, I want to welcome everyone here. And those of you that cannot um, make it, obviously in person, this is going to be this will be a recording on our NDNU YouTube channel. So this wonderful presentation is going to be memorialized, basically.
Yay.
I want to introduce everyone here. One of our new faculty members, Cate Tolnai, and she's got an amazing background that encompasses online learning, K-12 education, artificial intelligence. She's worked as a consultant, also formerly um, as an instructor in other institutions, and we're very, very, very fortunate to have her. So basically, Kate's going to be talking about teaching in the AI era. That is very much aligned to our series here on social emotional learning. And this is a great intersection of how can we teach in this particular era, holding fast to the framework, what encompasses social emotional learning, cultural competencies. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Kate.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Any opportunity to have conversations with other educators about integrating AI literacy is just, I have a real hard time saying no because it is so important that we carve out time to have these crucial conversations. I have found time and time again that the best decisions about AI literacy and AI implementation come from individuals who have personal experience with AI themselves. And so it's great that you all are here and that you all are interested, because my hope for you is that you're able to walk away with a new frame of reference around what it means to play with artificial intelligence and to know what tools are out there, and then host the space for conversations within your local communities so that you can make informed decisions about what's right for your teachers, for your students, for the families and caregivers that you work with. So I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you, Kelly, so much. I put into the chat the link to my slide deck so that you can access that. There are many links in here, so this will be a good one to hang on to after the fact, because we might not get enough time enough time for you to explore at your length, but you'll have access to all the links as we move through the session. Okay, so I want to start and just ask the room, when I say artificial intelligence, where do you plot yourself on this graph? This is an emoji graph, so obviously, I'm not going to be specific about the context for AI. I'm just simply going to say artificial intelligence, and I'd love to know from the room where you are. Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat.
If you don't mind, I'll unmute
Oh,
and speak a little
please.
bit. And yes, this Kate meant this to be interactive, so feel free to unmute when she
Yes.
asks for participation. I love it. It's a math kind of like a Cartesian graph. I want to state that I would be let's see, C3. That's where
C3, right here.
yeah.
All right, tell us more about that.
I think I'm an early adopter of sorts, but I am drawn to the red cheeks, which to me denotes sometimes blushing, ready for any mistakes and owning up to that or any
Mhm.
mishaps, just like what happened this morning.
Yeah, yeah. Life
So,
life happens with technology. Yep,
yeah.
for sure. I love it. And I think for me, I would probably place myself at a D2. I, for the most part, like really enjoy personally using AI for brainstorming and ideation. I like to put my ideas into a generator like ChatGPT and having conversations with it and getting myself to kind of hone in on my idea, like what I really wanted to get to produce. I love the thought partnership, but I'm wearing sunglasses because my eyes are expressive, and I'm learning so much about AI and thinking a lot about AI literacy from different perspectives in education. And so um, everybody that I've talked to, from IT directors to school administrators to classroom teachers to parents and caregivers, everybody has different feelings. And so I try not to give too much away because I very much want it to be a neutral space. I want people to feel like they can talk to me openly about it. And I myself see pros and cons on all the sides. So I'm definitely a D2.
Um,
Carol, or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
I would say I'm a C2, but
Okay.
I'd add a like confusion. I need one that kind of shows a little bit of like, I think it's good, but I'm kind of confused.
Oh, I think you're a C4.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure which one said that, but it's like,
That's the thing
I
about
know,
emojis,
and
right?
as far as I've seen, I like it, but
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like there's so much about it I don't understand that I'm not really sure where I'm going with it, but
Yeah. No, that's so fair. Yep. But ultimately, like, you're open. There's a
oh
smile.
yeah, overall I'm very positive. I'm just like not sure I have enough information to really be
Yeah.
positive.
I appreciate that so much, Janet. That's
So
super
I'm
honest.
not quite sure what's coming down the track. I'm not thinking it's negative, but it's kind of like asking like something like, what do you think about neutron stars? You know, it's like, well, they seem okay, but I don't really know what they are.
Got
You know?
it. Thank you so much, Janet.
yeah, that's about where I would put myself too.
Okay.
I'm using it. I'm excited about it. But what I'm trying to figure out now is both how to introduce it in my school, which is a K-8 or TK-8 school, responsibly, and how to support my teachers, some of whom would probably put themselves in like H1 and some of who would
Yep.
be over in the A column.
Yep.
And trying to figure out how to like move everybody a little bit. Because I think, one of my teachers said recently, well, I just think we should ban the kids from using it. I'm like, well, lots of luck with that because, we can't really control what they're doing at home and not really even in school. But I said, so I think like with everything, and, I've been doing this long enough that I also remember when people didn't want kids to use calculators and people didn't want kids to use the, times table chart or so I think we have to, like those things, figure out how to responsibly make it part of our programs and, teach kids ethics and all the things they need to know, but not just run away from it like it's going to go away.
Wow. Your community is lucky to have a visionary like you at the helm. I have to say, Carol, I mean that honestly. I work with a lot of schools and educators, and I think, just your openness and just your reality, the reality you're sharing of like, can we avoid this completely? Maybe not, and probably not. So then let's harness it in some way. So I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing. Well, I like to start with this because the reality is I don't think people associate emotions to artificial intelligence. In fact, I think they separate it. But I really believe that artificial intelligence in and of itself is a very emotional topic. And I think, depending on which hat you're wearing, you're going to bring different feelings, different biases, different fears, different excitements to the conversation. And it's important as we talk about this that we acknowledge that it's a vulnerable space for people. And my job is not to be an AI cheerleader. That's not my end game at all. But like I said at the beginning, my goal is to be like 2 steps ahead of everybody else here on the call so that I can provide experiences that help you gain more confidence to have conversations you need to have in your spaces with information. All right. So, Oops, let's go back. So the essential question that I want to pose for the room is, how can educators harness AI's potential while keeping learning innovative, creative, and deeply human? And that last part is really, I think, going to be at the cornerstone of a lot of what we talk about today, especially because we're entering this conversation around AI through the lens of social emotional learning. And we also can't separate the fact that we as educators are experts in child development, and we understand how children tick. And just because technology and innovation are entering the space in a different way doesn't negate our expertise. And so how can we leverage our expertise around human development to have this conversation? So many moons ago, 2 years about, I was charged at my previous position at the county office in Santa Barbara to share with the community what I was learning about artificial intelligence. So just timeline wise, to paint the picture, we all met ChatGPT in November of 2022, or at least the popular world did. And this was made just a few months after that. And what's great is that the technology in and of itself hasn't changed. And so I think, again, giving us a frame of reference around what AI is and the technology of it, kind of like what you said, Janet, those neurons or neutrons or whatever you said. This is my way of saying, actually, it's computer science, and it's not as esoteric as we think it is. So we're going to take a moment to watch this video. And it's about 3 minutes, and then we'll come back together and unpack it a little bit. So let's make sure sound is okay. Let me refresh real quick.
For an image of artificial intelligence, you're very likely to see
Sound okay?
something like this.
I'm going to start it over.
If you searched online for an image of artificial intelligence, you're very likely to see something like this. A blend of computer and human elements, a mechanical brain juxtaposed to a human brain, a robot resembling the human form. And there's a good reason for this. From a 60,000-foot view, let's simplify human intelligence as a frame for understanding AI. Consider the human brain. This complex organ processes the information that our human senses experience and transmits that information across a complex system of neurons and nerve cells. As our senses perceive the environment, our human intelligence grows, learns, and produces new ideas that are powered by all the individual bits of information it receives. A similar complex network of connections exists in some machines. Data are uploaded into the machines through human-generated computer programs and manual entry, and then transmitted and processed across hidden layers inside the machine. This arrangement of individual data points and into data sets form a larger network that mimics the human brain. Generative AI is a fascinating field of study that combines machine learning and creativity. It uses special algorithms and models to make new content like images, music, text, or even videos. This creative content starts as simple bits of information known as data points. They combine into data sets that represent more complex details and elements, but data sets alone do not generate new information. These data sets are collectively uploaded into machines that process and connect the information inside hidden layers. As the machine processes and transmits the data sets, it tracks patterns and structures, learning from this data. This process is also referred to as training the machine. Just like how we learn new things, machines can also learn, but in a different way. Training a machine means teaching it to do a specific task, like recognizing objects and images, understanding human speech, or playing a game. We give the machine lots of examples through the data sets and let it learn from them. Through this interconnected network of data sets, the machine can generate new content based on what it's learned. It can make artwork that looks like it was painted by a famous artist. It can also compose songs and melodies that get stuck in our heads. And just like the network in the human brain, we refer to this creative machine learning process as a neural network. Like any technology, generative AI comes with its benefits and limitations. On the positive side, it allows us to explore new creative possibilities and accelerate innovation. However, it also raises questions about originality and ethical concerns. Together, we need to carefully consider the implications and use of generative AI responsibly and ethically.
Okay. Boom. It's just computer science. I'll pause here if there's any questions as you kind of let that sink in, or any points that you want me to clarify, or I can try to clarify for you.
I really do like that part where it says those data sets were inputted by humans.
Yes.
So it kind of tells you who the originator, the original author,
Yeah.
that basically create or bring this amazing artificial intelligence to being is the authors are those humans that either inputted or originated with, the large data models to which the rest of us can use. So
yeah, and it's a bit mind-blowing because when you think about the large language models that we see most popularly, like ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, those data sets that they're accessing, that includes the entire internet. And when you realize how faulty the internet is, you start to understand why so much of AI gets a bad rap. Because when the machines are generating new content based on that data, they're generating new content that's incredibly biased, that's full of stereotypes, that is inaccurate, because the internet is full of that. And so herein lies the necessity for us to keep centered in our humanity as we move through this technology. So, taking that a step further, back in May of 2023, the Office of Educational Technology at the federal level released a study that I've linked you to here. It's called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Teaching and Learning. And this, again, thinking of the timeline, this is months after the world and education sphere met ChatGPT and other large language models. And we were all desperately seeking guidance, policy, and structured response from our government entities, state level, federal level. We were just looking for guidance because everything felt very out of control and it was happening so fast and we weren't understanding it. And this was one of the first reports that were released that provided that structure. And it didn't even really provide that much, but it was so much for us that we needed, right? There was a lot of case studies. There were examples from classrooms that looked and felt like ours. And so it's a big document, but it's one that, if you're interested in learning more, it's a foundational piece to the work that we're all doing in AI and education. One concept that came out of it that has been tried and true throughout all this time is this idea of what's called humans in the loop. And it's a reminder that as we are looking to integrate AI literacy and AI tools into our educational spaces, that we as the humans need to be front and center and literally in the middle of the whole process. So it's a framework, if you will, that keeps this concept top of mind. You see at the center, there are the students and teachers. So as educational systems start to have conversations around capital P policy, lowercase policy. The idea is to be making these decisions and policies with each students and teachers at the focus point. And then each petal of that flower kind of unpacks the different considerations like privacy and data security, and making sure that if we're going to integrate AI, is it even aligned to our vision of learning? Again, are we giving ourselves permission to override the AI when we see that it's not hitting the mark? Minimizing bias, promoting fairness, being aware of the context that the AI is being delivered, and then being really transparent about when we're using it, when we're not using it, when students are using it, when they're not using it. So just keeping what we know as educators at the core, which is humanity. So I liken it, they kind of reference this, and I took it a bit further, but the idea that we don't want to be that puppy on the Roomba, right? We don't want to just be riding the machine. We want to be using the AI as the pedal assist on our e-bike. So we are still steering, we are still pedaling, we are still deciding our course, but we're getting there a little faster and maybe a little bit more efficiently. And that's really at the core of humans in the loop, keeping our humanity front and center. So in my research for this session, I was so pleased to come across a gentleman by the name of Howard Robinson. He's someone that was referenced in an article I found, and then I was determined to find him, and I believe I found him on LinkedIn. And I'm just pleased to introduce him to our space, because what he says as a STEM educator and a VR game designer, I think it captures what I've been saying, but just in the most beautiful way. He says AI does not stand for artificial intelligence in his mind. It stands for artificial inspiration. And I try to show kids that their own ideas are more powerful than AI. You just use AI to help your ideas grow. And the reason why this resonated so deeply with me is because I have, for many months, been explaining the role of AI in my personal workflow as an ideation partner, as a thought partner. And I really appreciate this twist to inspiring our ideas to grow in new directions, but that ultimately they are my ideas. It is my vision. So taking that a little further, I want to bring us to social emotional learning. And I'll ask the room, is everyone familiar, or who is familiar with the CASTLE framework for social emotional learning? Yeah, Kelly, Carol, great. Janet's familiar. Okay, great. So for those of you that are watching this that might not know about this yet, it is a framework that helps guide conversations around human development, identity, emotional development, in a structured way that, as you can see from the graphic here, includes all stakeholders that we work with in education. So under the larger circle of our community, including our families and caregivers, including our schools, including our classrooms, we are looking at these 5 aspects of human social emotional development as cornerstones for supporting student growth. So the first one is self-awareness, which is the ability for one to understand their own emotions and thoughts and values, and how those beliefs influence our behavior. So just being able to look in the mirror, understand what we're seeing. And then self-management, which is the ability to manage one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. So we have self-awareness, which is acknowledging these, and then self-management, which is controlling them and steering them so that we're appropriately responding in different situations and achieving our goals and aspirations. Which leads to responsible decision-making, which is the ability to make those caring and constructive choices about our personal behavior and our social interactions across all sorts of different situations. And looking at it from the social side, we have relationship skills, which is the ability to establish and maintain healthy and supportive relationships. so that we can navigate those different diverse situations and individuals and groups, which ultimately lands in a social awareness, understanding the perspectives of other people in those different situations, in those diverse environments, so that we're acknowledging and including all of those from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and contexts, and we're learning to empathize with them. And so I think it's very powerful, and as I said in the essential question, deeply human to have this conversation around AI through the lens of the Castle framework, which is how we're going to move through this next part. So, what if, when we're coming down to this self-awareness part, right, the ability for a student to just understand what they believe, understand how they feel, what if generative AI could actually support student self-reflection by helping teachers create journal entries, or maybe guided reflections, or even personalized self-assessment questions, so that we can be moving our students towards that self-actualization, self-awareness piece in a streamlined, diverse, inclusive way. And so one tool that I have found to be an assistant in this area is called DFIT for Teachers, and we're going to get a chance in just a bit to play with that. But as you can see from that screenshot, DFIT is an assistant for teachers to rapidly produce resources and lesson ideas, and like I said, journal entries, reflection questions that are going to help our students reach self-awareness more directly. There's so many tools. This is just the one I'm showing. Actually, I should pause. Are there questions or thoughts or any ahas as you see all this? I realize I jumped right past it, but let me pause and go back. There's a lot here.
Can I just make a comment that
Please.
just like you helped lead a talk, I guess back, a couple months in 2022 from Santa Barbara about unpacking AI when it just recently come out. I just want to say for the record that having this topic of embedding AI in the framework of the social emotional learning, particularly, like how the castle wheel is also going to be transformative. And because the social emotional wheel, a lot of us educators are familiar with. And in order to place it in there, it really gives us that perspective and that grounding. And I love some of the teaching tools that you're going to show that nicely combines the two. And I think that's going to be transformative. And again, I can't wait to distribute this to as many educators as possible.
Oh, good.
Yeah, not that they will become, DFIT, subscribers, but
Sure.
it's more of just using that as a tool in a concrete way to get back to the center of how we can help our students to think critically and to be very self-aware. And that just gives a richer engagement with their content and with themselves. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. And for the record, all the resources and tools I'll be sharing today are free for educators. And any student ones that I share are safe and compliant for TK through 12. Okay. So this is actually a freemium, excuse me, a freemium tool, meaning you can get plenty out of there free, but if you really want to pay, you can pay too, but plenty out of the free. Okay, thank you so much. So self-awareness, again, thinking about coming up with, like, even in my work with my Notre Dame Dinamore students that I'm teaching right now, one of the shifts that I made recently with the help of AI, instead of just assigning one reflection question for a discussion, I've now generated 10 different questions that are relatively generic, but that are going to deepen their understanding of the research I'm offering each module. And I'm saying to them, choose the one that resonates with you. Why am I prescribing how do you reflect? At this point, AI can help me come up with 10 of them. So go for it. Which ultimately lands them in this space of just being aware of what they even want to think more about, which I think is pretty empowering. Okay, so self-management. So again, remembering this is the idea of managing all those emotions that they're starting to understand about themselves and finding the right use for them. So what if tools like, AI-powered wellness apps and chatbots were able to help students develop some coping strategies or even track their emotions and in turn kind of helped build some self-regulation skills. So I had a hard time choosing the tool I wanted to show for this one because there's a couple that I really love. This is a relatively new one called Alongside, and I'm interested in it. It is a for-pay model, but I was able to get in for free to experience it in a demo. And I think it's interesting for us to acknowledge that this even exists. I'm really sharing this as a resource for you to understand it's out there. Because in my mind, like if this exists, there's going to be 10 more tomorrow. And the idea behind Alongside is that students would log in and they would have like these daily trackers that you're seeing on the screen. So there is a chat feature, and the llama that the student chats with is called Kiwi, and they can have chats with this llama. And if there are indicators that of self-harm or harming others, those are red flagged for the teacher to see. So again, I haven't used this with students. This is still kind of new for me. But if you look on this, you can also see like continue working on being a sleep superhero. So the kids are tracking how much sleep they're getting. Mood boost. So there's like these little videos like fainting goats. I haven't played with this one. The one I played with was a box breathing video that they had right there, which everybody knows the power of box breathing. And just, pausing for that. And then tracking, like I enjoyed being around blank, or they could click surprise me and come up with a different prompt. So the idea is that it's collecting this social emotional data from the students and then informing the instructor, where their students are at. Today I'm feeling okay, today I'm feeling not okay, and then giving the students the ability to see a little bit more about what their indicators are telling them. So again, I use this as just proof of concept that there are other tools out there that are going to do things like this, and there will be more to come, which again is not something that we would associate, like we wouldn't associate something that's so deeply human and emotional to an AI tool. And it's pretty fascinating that this is where the technology has landed. And I just wonder what that means for us. Again, not being a cheerleader or proponent, just wondering, what does this mean? How safe is our data? Carol, you mentioned that earlier. You want to be safe with the students. You want to make sure it's appropriate. Like, those are questions I have for this app, like where does this data go? What do they do with that data? And they have plenty of legalese that tells us what they do with the data, and it is safe and compliant. But nonetheless, it's good to have those considerations. Okay. Moving into responsible decision making. So they're aware of their emotions, they're managing their emotions, now they're doing something based on those emotions. And I had to wonder, what if AI was used to help students weigh some decisions by maybe simulating some outcomes? So I liken this to those choose your own adventure novels that I would read as a kiddo. And it would be like, if Susie turns right, turn to page 47. If she ends up turning around and going home, turn to page 54, right? Those novels where you got to choose your own adventure. So could we use AI to simulate some of those outcomes, or even provide some structured ethical discussions? Maybe help them critically assess credibility of information. There's a resource that is compliant and safe and freemium for students to use. It's called Magic School AI. And I found found a feature in there called Debate Partner. And the student can actually enter the topic for the debate and like chat with the tool to do like a simulated debate, and getting the students to, again, start to be aware of the impact of their beliefs on these larger conversations and how to articulate their responses in that way. Is this the end all be all? Will this ever replace debate club? No, it couldn't. It couldn't possibly. But maybe it could assist them along the way. Maybe it could help a kiddo who's like, I can't debate, I can't talk in front of anybody because I don't know what I'm saying. Maybe it might help them grow confident in that area. I'm not sure, but it's interesting to know it's out there. Relationship skills. So, thinking socially about maintaining and establishing those healthy and supportive relationships. What if AI could actually facilitate communication and collaboration, offering students tools to engage in those meaningful conversations while assisting educators in differentiating our instruction to support diverse learners? We all want to do that better. We all wish we had more hours in the day to build 5 different versions of the lesson plan to make sure all our kids have their needs met. And so could AI be an assistance in that space? And so another tool, School AI, is a freemium tool and compliant for TK-12. And they offer what are called spaces. And they invite students to, again, many of the spaces, all the spaces actually include a chat feature, but the spaces are actually, many of them are thematically built. So as you can see, like if you want your students to do a story mapping activity and maybe brainstorm their ideas, there's a space for that. Some vocabulary practice, compare and contrast, even historical perspectives. There's a lot inside of School AI that could support in helping students find their voice and safely explore what it feels like to interact before they're inundated with maybe some of those social inhibitions that come along, especially because I taught middle school for 10 years, and so those kids are silent. Nobody has the guts to talk. They're so nervous. They're so scared of being judged. And I would always think, gosh, you're losing out on all this opportunity to just figure yourself out. And so, the middle school teacher in me thinks this is really interesting. And I will also say there is a whole teacher side to School AI where I can actually get in and I can see the entire chat that a student has in any one of these tools. And there's indicators if there's any concerning words or phrases or shares that come through. It's actually a very robust teacher side that's going to give me insights into these conversations, which satisfies my needs to oversee and make sure I'm being the human in the loop. But it's an interesting way to offer students a chance to find their voices and figure out impacts of their words. And lastly, social awareness. So what if AI could provide diverse perspectives or help students understand different cultures or emotions or even social dynamics through scenario-based learning? So I oftentimes will go straight to ChatGPT and I will prompt the heck out of it, and I will type in there specifically like who I'm teaching and what I'm teaching and the specific lesson I'm teaching and the specific skill I want them to show me and all of these things. And I can get quite a bit of specificity out of, for me, ChatGPT. But that's kind of like an unwrapped version. If you want something like gift wrapped or really pretty, that's where a lot of these tools are coming in. So Magic School AI, while you could go and ask any of those other tools to generate a social emotional lesson or social emotional learning lesson plan, there's a tool within the teacher side of Magic School AI that makes it pretty streamlined to create a lesson plan that's focused on social emotional learning, and you can actually align it to any of the 5 SEL competencies from CASEL. So it's CASEL aligned. And again, we're going to get in there. So I know I'm talking a lot, and the best way to learn AI is to do AI. So we're going to get in. Kind of as a wrap to all of this, I have seen, a very good use of AI for teachers in automating tasks, developing content and student materials, personalizing lessons and materials for students. And then conversely, Carol, to your point, safe and compliant use of AI for students in the form of AI tutoring, even brainstorming, drafting, proofreading their writing, and then creative projects and problem solving and being thought partners in that space. So I want to pause here just because Janet and Carol and Kelly, I want to make sure if you have questions or thoughts at this point before we get hands-on time, or even just where your head's at with all this. We're going through so much.
I mean, I think that's where I like, there is so much, and like trying to figure out like, okay, if I want to, roll out some things, like what are the best things to introduce, and what do because I think it can be very easily overwhelming. And there's probably good thing. I'm assuming you're showing us really great things. But sometimes I get in these like, wormholes, and it's like, oh my gosh, and some of it's great and some of it really is not. So I'm just curious about your thought on like how you distinguish those things.
I love that question. And I want to speak to that because I do have criteria. And especially before we dive into any of the tools that I selected, I want to just kind of unpack it. So when I am looking at amplifying any of the many tools in the market, first and foremost, I read the privacy policies and the terms of service. And I actually copied those two documents into ChatGPT. And I paste it. And I say, hey, ChatGPT, is this safe to use for students under 13? Is this safe to use for students under 18? And it reads it and it summarizes it for me. And then I go back and check to make sure it was right. So first and foremost, is it safe for the kids? Because I do not want to expose teachers to tools that are supposed to be kid focused that are not safe and compliant. It's like a bait and switch. It's terrible. So I'm very careful to make sure that if there are any student tools, the teachers can actually use them. I also look at pricing structure because in my mind, when something is free for teachers and education, what we're paying is our data. So our currency at that point is data. So I know that if a tool is free, I need to look really carefully at what they're doing with the information that me and my students are giving them. And sometimes that's very clear in their policies. And sometimes it requires me digging and asking people I know and going directly to the source. And I am all about going directly to these partners, these third-party solution providers on LinkedIn and just messaging them on Twitter. Even like, I just do it. I just tag them and be like, hey, just wondering. And I get responses. Like it actually works. And not because I'm me, but because I'm tagging them. And I don't think enough people know to do that. So if it's not clear based on the research I'm doing, I will go to the source and I will ask them. And then I look at ease of use and integration with other tools. So I think to myself, okay, many schools have Chromebooks. Many schools have iPads. Some have other laptops. A lot of school districts have Google Apps for Education. So I think about the environment that the tool is going to be used in, and then I look, is there an easy integration? Does it feel like some of those other tools? Will teachers be able to pick it up? Is there like a similar look and feel, ease of use? Is the user experience intuitive? Because if it's too clunky, teachers will tap out. So that means I get into the tool and I try it. And at that point, if I've checked all my boxes, I know it's compliant, I know it's safe, I know the price point. Either I'm going to pay or I'm not, with money or data. Then, how does it feel? And then I pilot it with a few people that are ready. And I say, now you use it. And let's get a few of my early adopters on my team. How does it feel? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you interested in it? And then, assuming all goes well there, I empower them to help me implement at that point. Because at that point it becomes almost grassroots, right? And you have your people in the field supporting the implementation because you've done it so strategically and you've supported that small group and gotten successful use out of it. And if it fails at that point, it's okay because it fails small. And that's okay. Then we abandon ship and we find something else. Does that help, Carol? Okay. I wish there was a tried and true 1, 2, 3 step formula, but that's as close as I can get right now.
So it does sound like this would take time. It doesn't sound like something from the beginning of researching, checking itself, safety and compliance, um, checking with other either users or the original source, seeing on the look and feel if it works with the context of the school, and then having a few folks pilot it. I mean, what do you think is like an estimated timeline? Because I would like for, those of us that implement these kinds of curriculum,
Yeah.
these ideas as a teacher so they get an idea,
Yeah. I think that has to do with cultural readiness. I was just working with a school district a couple weeks ago. They had me come in to run a full day of AI PD for their teachers because they were ready. And by the time it got to the teachers, the turnaround time between them learning about tools and them using tools was pretty quick because there was a cultural readiness for it. And I would say too, like your pilot, by the time you get to your pilot, if the culture is ready and the pilot's the right fit, you may have a lot of people in that pilot, in which case that's telling you a ton too. But you're right, Kelly, it does take time and it should take time because you're creating new experiences for your students and their families. And with that, and I didn't even talk about getting families on board. I didn't even talk about that, and I should have, because keeping parents in the loop and caregivers in the loop is a crucial, critical point, as well as letting our board members know, just telling the story of what we're doing is a huge part of this. So my apologies for not touching on that. But yeah, I mean, this is going to take months. It can't happen right away if you're starting from scratch. But if you've done this and you have a system in place, it can be just kind of always happening. That's the beauty of having systems, right? And having an IT team that is open and ready and comfortable with, getting down to what works for the system and what works for student safety and privacy. That would fall, I think, squarely upon an IT lead. And then having the cultural readiness fall on the leadership, and then having teacher buy-in fall on the teachers. So that's what I mean, is that it really does take everybody being ready. The board having approved the funding and the families like having signed the acceptable use policy, having an acceptable use policy that speaks to AI. Like once those are in place though, it can move. But there is a need to get those in place. Yeah. Are you ready? I'm so excited. Okay. So remember how we talked about we know human children. Okay, I'm going to reinforce that with this graphic. And I want to just point out that, it doesn't want to, there we go. Okay, that AI in TK2 needs to look really different than AI in any other grade level. I mean, every developmental grade level needs to look different, but especially with our littles. Sometimes, like, the number of people that forget that, like, TK2 shouldn't really even be touching AI, it's kind of mind-blowing. It's like we've all jumped over human development and said, oh, AI K-12. And I'm like, no, not at all. Littles should be just just being aware of the basic concepts of artificial intelligence, maybe fostering curiosity, giving them some vocabulary and literacy skills, and then in 3rd through 5th grade, we're starting to look at maybe some foundational concepts, maybe giving them some hands-on experimentation, but in a very scaffolded, safe way with lots of guardrails. 6th through 8th grade, again, they're not 13, which means most, if not, yes, most of these AI tools should not be in their hands yet, except for the ones that are like for education. But most of the solutions that are out on the market should not even be in their hands. By middle school, we need them to be deepening their understanding of AI principles, maybe even using certain AI concepts or tools in like protected, like a project-based learning environment, very much teacher oversight. And then 13 happens, laws change, and by high school, it's appropriate for us to be expanding their technical skills, having them understand the computer science behind it and conceptual knowledge, and even, giving them the space to like critically think about the AI's impact. And as we send them out into college and career, are they ready for careers that involve AI? And are they developing projects that are showcasing their own AI skills? Because to your point, Carol, like this is the world that they're entering. And if we pretend and just turn it off, then we're losing an opportunity to scaffold this in a very strategic and beautiful way. I liken it to, if you're familiar with Common Sense Media and their digital citizenship scope and sequence, that was very much at the core of what inspired this visual for me, because they don't wait until the child is 12 to talk about what happens when they're 13 and they can start using social media, right? It starts in kinder. It starts in TK. And that's the same with AI. We just have to start these conversations. So let's get into DFIT. Okay, you have a choice. Friends, you can get into DFIT yourself right now, and I highly recommend you do that. Or you can just watch me do it. Or you can open it, because I just put it in the chat, and you can play with it later. Whatever you want to do. But this is DFIT for teachers. It is not for students. It is for teachers. So I am going to point out that there is a free account that you can create. I'm going to sign in through Google. Again, this is kind of the stuff I was talking about, Carol, right? Like just really thinking about what's already in place, what could be a smooth thing for my teachers. And I'm in. All right. So I can get student-ready resources, right? So this is generate a resource on literally anything. They have some book titles. So what's a book that comes to mind when we think about our teachers and our learners? Janet and Carol or Kelly, do any of you have thoughts? Like what's a book that your teachers teach?
Oh, I was going into the DFIT.
Oh yeah, go into DFIT, go.
What was it? Was it Fahrenheit for, I think.
Oh yeah.
My son's reading that.
Fahrenheit 451?
Yeah.
Hey, look, there it is. So this is pretty rad. They have, inside, they have already kind of pre-filled some book titles here. It's not exclusive to, you can, it is exclusive to what they've built. You could do literally anything and type in other stuff, but it's kind of fun to know that if you're teaching Fahrenheit 451 and you wanted to align to some standards for 10th grade, I could do a quick Common Core ELA alignment and customize my resource. So this is where that customization comes in. It's at a 3rd grade level, even though it's a 10th grade standard. So the reading level can be differentiated for my different students. But let's not give it at 3rd grade. Let's give it at 10th grade for kicks. I can change the language of the resource that's coming. So again, thinking about our learners and differentiating. And just these few clicks, I'm going to generate the resource, and I want you to see how DFIT would work. So it's going to create these student activities. They're going to feel a lot like worksheets. But you can definitely take these worksheets and turn them into many other different types of projects. It gives you some AI has basically curated some images for you, or you can upload your own. It has a long form summary of that section that you can edit because you can overwrite it as a human, and you can show those sources. There it is, right down there. Again, it gives a shorter summary, some key vocabulary words. You can add your own, edit it, some multiple choice questions that are standards aligned, some short answer questions, some open-ended prompts. And that's just the beginning, because now you can get into those graphic organizers. A Google form quiz can be generated with just a one click. Lots to choose from. So if I click on any of these, let's say like a 3-2-1 reading summary, even though this is like a 10th grade book, right? Like this is a high school book, it can still be really helpful to produce this type of activity. So your students are doing like a slow, close read of some of the vocabulary, things that they've learned, pictures, a question. Like that's just a tried and true literacy activity for any grade level. And it's generating this content based on the first settings that you decided. Read and take notes. So here's a passage, take some notes. So again, close reading activity. Answer and explain. And if you wanted to, you could change the format here from PDF to PowerPoint to Google slide deck. If you wanted to export it, it's exporting. Open in Google Slides, share to Classroom, download PDF or PowerPoint. Okay. And that's kind of just scratching the surface of DFIT, but that's really the idea is you choose the content, and we chose a book, but you could also include a YouTube video or an article. You could upload text up to 40,000 words, or you could upload a PDF. You could have teachers enter vocabulary words and turn it into vocabulary exercises. So there's a lot there. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I tested it out in the background, and I picked a topic that I have some, I guess, critical analysis and I am familiar with.
Great.
That's
Great.
Asian American history.
Please,
in
yes.
California. So I looked at it and I typed it in.
Do you want to share your
and,
screen, Kelly?
Let's see. It's actually, it stopped me. Ah, darn.
There we go. Go for
In
it.
the middle of something. It froze.
Don't worry. You can tell us what you did.
I'm sorry. But while I was doing it, a thought came to mind, and that is I was looking at the open-ended prompts.
Yeah.
And I liked the prompts. It got me wondering, though, is that I can critically analyze this in a relatively quick amount of time because of my previous extensive research and history as a graduating from the Asian American Studies program at San Francisco State. Okay, so I come with those lens already knowing, right? So I can tell, this works, this doesn't work. I can tweak it to in alignment to what I had studied and researched.
Yeah.
For a high school teacher that has not had that background in Asian American history or in ethnic studies or in any other particular topic, I think what is a way to kind of remind teachers that this is not the quick and dirty and that you can just simply select, but to still be reminded to look at it with eyes wide open. And they're great overall. The content, the site is great, but just to be aware when it comes to the the histories of communities or anything of that nature,
Yeah.
that it's not unintentionally leading to stereotypes, bias,
Yeah.
implicit bias, anything like that.
Yeah.
And so does that involve like another colleague or peer
Mm.
in the same history department, social studies department of the high school to kind of do like a balance and check? Does it involve a like a kind of a small workshop, a department meeting where the department chair is just informing, just be aware of this? I mean, what does it take? So
Yeah. That's so great. I mean, doesn't that, don't I feel like all those questions apply to any time we're talking about ethnic studies or cultural studies, especially, right? Whether you're using Diffit or if you're using Google, like, or you're using a textbook, to be honest, right? Like,
oh, and here's something that's also wild. Like, my 10 years as a math teacher,
yeah,
and one of the histories I looked at, or one of the topics as a sideline, if you ever heard of ethnoscience or ethnomathematics, I spent some time looking into that. And I learned some really interesting things that are just prevalent in our, let's say, our typical algebra textbook that's been adopted
yeah,
with the Common Core standards, or our geometry, that there is a implicit cultural emphasis of these geometry textbooks, these algebra textbooks, that basically has a very heavy emphasis, like whether it's ancient Greece, whether it's from the Renaissance period, and not understanding the history of these theories or developments. If we look into it, it came from other places like Egypt, Mesopotamia, China, ancient India. And so, math teachers aren't going to get into that. I just happen to do that because that's just something I like to do.
yeah.
And so it's even in those topics that we define as the hard science, just to be aware of the implicit bias. Now, I know that goes beyond or in addition to this topic here, but it's just something to be aware of as teachers.
I think it's directly aligned to social emotional learning, though, and what we talked about earlier. And those social skills we talked about, understanding different cultures, understanding diversity, under like creating inclusive spaces for those conversations. So it's spot on, Kelly. And I think, like I said, it wasn't to dismiss, it was to reinforce your question, to say we should be asking these critical questions anytime we come across content that speaks to specific content area that we know to be maybe not as deeply studied by everybody else. So I appreciate that so much.
Me too.
Well, thank you.
Terry.
You know how you used to call the what is it, it was a Pythagorean theorem.
Uh-huh.
It's come to be a joke among my old geometry students that we call it Babylonian theorem.
There we go.
Because the Pythagorean theorem became popular at I think it was a historical math conference in Europe during the turn of the century, where they had claimed it was Pythagoras that came up with it. But research and history shows that it was actually around the same time or a little bit earlier by the Babylonians. So
Here we go.
yeah, well, Babylonians would be ancient, but so we always make a joke of that. Sorry, aside.
I mean, yesterday was Pi Day, so I appreciate you bringing us back to some math, right? Love it. Okay. Hopefully people have gotten an opportunity to play around a little bit. Please be critical of all these tools. Again, not the cheerleader for Diffit, just the person wanting you to see what's possible so that you can make some decisions. And on that note, I would love to actually get you into the student side of Magic School. So what I'm going to have you all do, you can use your phone if you have a smartphone and you want to use that, and not mess with your computer screen right now. Here is the QR code to join our class in Magic School. And if not, you can just you can click on this icon right here, and you can type your name, and the room code is this right here. So while you all are getting in there, I saw Janet, Carol, and Kelly on their phones. Terry, are you in? Are you good? Oh, you're doing phone. Okay. Okay, good. So I'm going to show you what the teacher side looks like. Okay. So you're in. I see you people. And you use your real names. Good job. I didn't even have to tell you. And in front of you are two apps that are inside that I have told Magic School to make available for you. Okay. So I believe you have access to Debate. And then the other one is just an open-ended chat, correct? With Raina?
Tutor me with AI.
Tutor me with AI, right. Because I also thought it'd be kind of fun if you wanted to see what like a tutoring session would look like. But let's get into Debate. And you can just choose a topic to debate that's interesting to you. And I will show you from my end what I can see.
Oh, was I supposed to put a title? Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So, Kate, I have the page that says debate partner.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I
is there
believe
like
so. You put the title that you wanted. You put the topic you want to debate in there.
yes. And then I'm at this page that says, well, I guess there's an edit mode where I can change it. But it on the front it says, I understand we will be engaging in a respectful academic debate. And then there's a copy and a read aloud. Is there like a next button or a continue
Is there a place
button?
for you to type at the bottom?
Oh. Oh, it would help if I scroll down.
No, that's my
Okay.
fault. I should have explained that. Yeah, you have the editing field is at the bottom.
I did the same thing, Kelly.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was thinking the big blue button says continue. All right. I think. Okay. All right. I thought I would do a hot topic here. Okay. Okay, so I just sent a message. Oh, here we
Perfect.
go.
So
Okay.
here's what I'm seeing on my end. I'm able to see who's active, the last message that they wrote, the tool that they're in. And from here, I could actually be like, oh boy, Carol, you're really causing problems over here. I'm going to lock you out or I'm going to pause you. And I could actually remove someone from the room if it's getting dicey. At any point, though, I can open this up and I can see a summary of what the conversation is, and I can expand it to see exactly what the conversation is. And I could copy it if I need to, report it, which I don't exactly know where that report goes, but I should find that out. Here's what I already love so much is that each of you are debating different topics. And you chose the topic you want to debate. So it's not, understand that the debate partner is not there necessarily to prescribe the topic, though as the teacher you could say everybody put this in as the topic. But I kind of love that everybody went in different directions, because that just means it just reinforces the social emotional learning parts that we talked about today. This is, what do you care about? How do you want to develop these skills so that you can, form your own opinions and make decisions? How does this feel to you? You're using it. How does it feel?
It's like I'm texting back and arguing as like to a friend.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
agree.
helpful.
Go ahead.
I know. It's really helpful. It's very disturbing, but very helpful.
Why is it disturbing, Terry? I love that.
Well, it's just the argument. I mean, mine is Medicaid. And,
Okay.
yeah, the arguments are just bullshit. Ah, but anyway, it helps. It helps.
AI is emotional. That's all I'm going to say there.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, we definitely started with a dicey tool. There are so many we can choose from.
It's helpful, really helpful.
Yeah. Carol, Janet, thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is nice. I could see some real application for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does the user experience feel? Yeah, Janet.
It's good. It's interesting.
It's upsetting, really upsetting.
Well, I just asked a more neutral question about, should AI be used to write IEPs in special education?
Oh, that's
What did it say?
oh,
So it was more of a neutral topic.
Got it. I don't know. I feel pretty emotional about that topic.
yeah.
Well, clearly in reality, yes, but it doesn't really upset me personally.
Got it.
But yes, clearly it's a big topic, and
Yeah.
it's a huge topic for special education teachers who spend their lives writing IEPs.
Right.
Yeah.
How can we ethically use the tools of AI to help us write them, but still be keeping the human perspective?
Yes.
Well, what parts of IEPs? Karen Breslow is involved with the Stanford group that's working on goal writing, and one of my students has written a behavior intervention plan based on many hours and days of observations and writing a functional behavior assessment. And she plugged everything in, and you have to look very closely and put in the key terms in a behavior intervention plan. But she has a 13-page behavior intervention plan that is stellar, that saved her so much time in organizing everything.
Yeah, the assistant. I mean, that really goes back to that idea of the pedal assist on the bike, right? That, well, you weren't here, Terry, but we were talking about, don't be a puppy that rides a Roomba around the room. Don't be the robot. Be on the pedal bike and use the assist to get you there faster.
Yeah, and the other thing she was able to do was zero in on the fact that there are all these sensory needs and look at the student being on the spectrum, And I'm sorry, for some reason, even though I set my alarm, I convinced myself it was Sunday, so I tried to get on a meeting where I was the only one there.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Sounds like a day already, Terry.
Yeah.
It's okay, Terry. We still love you.
I want to just take a moment, since we're in this tool, to just show you really what is out there so that we're all aware. Like, for example, there's an image generator, presentation generator, a professional email generator, a rubric generator. Y'all, there is an IEP generator. This is what I'm saying. This is why we have to have cultural conversations.
Yeah, I need the presentation generator, definitely.
Right? But look, this is all they're saying.
Nice.
Yes, nice. And awareness. Awareness that it exists. For students, there's the SEL lesson planner that I modeled earlier. So you can align to the different competencies of the CASTLE framework. Type in a topic, any added criteria, and it'll give you that. It also has what I love as an exemplar. So before typing anything in, it'll kind of put the stuff in there for you so that you can see what it does before spending time learning it. And so this is an example of a what they are calling an SEL lesson plan.
I love it. Wow.
And yeah, looks pretty standard lesson plan. For the students, the way that if you want to see the tools that are available for them, you just toggle over, and these are like I told the space that you were in which tools to give you. So I just gave you chat and debate partner, but I could have clicked any of these and added any of these, and so could you. So you could create a space for students to write a skit or generate a song or just an idea generator. I love that rap battle. Tutor Me with AI is one that I turned on. Quiz Me, study habits, a thank you note. So there's just a lot. There's a lot.
Okay, so Kate, I'm going to put my curriculum hat on.
Please.
I know that, like, as your manager, right? I know that you're teaching the ed tech course for, 4113, and thank you so much. Just curious, are you introducing this particular just this site, this tool to the teacher candidates? Okay, I didn't know if you were.
Not yet. There's one of my modules that will be about future of learning.
Okay, all
And
right.
I'll give them an opportunity to choose a tool to explore and then think about the impact. But
okay.
it's not, yeah, but we should talk about it if you have thoughts.
Yes, one thought I have, and again, not running away from social emotional learning,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering from these, very innovative and, right now new ideas, that I'm wondering for future classes in the credential programs, and all the folks that are here are going to be either leading or, in faculty or both in the credential programs, whether it's gen ed or special ed.
Yeah.
If there's a way we can map that from those ed tech that says, okay, this is what was introduced in either Kate or Brian's classes.
Oh, yeah.
And then just kind of touch on them, like not necessarily have a lesson on it, but just put a reminder of that so that they can see that this is something that we collectively are thinking about to bring it before our teacher candidates. I did this some years ago when Common Core was just about ready to come out and enter into California years ago. And I was just educating all my teacher candidates as a gen ed instructor on Common Core. This is coming. And then I encourage my other faculty, sorry, special ed folks, but in the gen ed, you need to talk about this,
Yeah.
And because it became prevalent, we were using that language. Those teacher candidates of that year end up being the leaders when they were employed full time, being in the leads of their schools about introducing and embedding Common Core standards in concrete ways.
Yeah.
So I can see that happening now with AI tools, humanized AI tools. We could do that because that's a topic that's really percolating among school districts.
Well, and I think, Kelly, to your point, like when it comes to a Magic School AI, and there's many others, so this again is not a commercial for Magic School AI. I just think we need to know this exists as instructional leaders, as leaders of the next generation of instructional leaders. We have to know that this exists because this is, like I said earlier, this is gift wrapped. This looks and feels simple and easy, but if humans are not included, and if we aren't overriding the AI, or if we're not critically saying, no, you will not use an IEP generator tool in Magic School AI, please. No, that's not what we do. And if you do, let's have that conversation. My fear is it will get away from us because it's all happening so fast. And so the more awareness we have to make decisions, like you're saying, about what we show and what we don't show, I think it's crucial. And it's having conversations like this where you all see it and you touch it and you use it as a student. Like, when would anybody do that? When would you have gotten into magic school as a student if not because I asked you to, right?
Well, they have, though. They know about it.
Right, but other teachers like us don't. That's my point.
Right. It's just important to ask the students what they're using, because
Yes.
I was just amazed at how much they're already using.
I agree. I agree so much. And I'm also amazed how much they're not getting out of what they're using. Like
Yeah.
they say, "Oh, I use Canva," but they're like, "But I didn't know it was free for education, and I didn't know where to find the templates, and I didn't know." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, happy birthday! Let me help you."
Yeah, I think the ethics need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed before anything else, because, you know, I had a student who thought it was okay to use AI for the ed specialist Cal TPA, and it was so obvious.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, there are parts of it, right, Terry, that, I mean,
For looking at it and proofreading it, but
right.
actually to write it, you know, that is really obvious. And it's hard when you have difficulty, if you're an English learner especially. It's very difficult, so you have to teach them what they can do and what they can't do. And why, you know?
That's a topic that I think putting my TPA director hat on before is that I wanted to address with the CTC about is, you know, this is coming. And so how do we ethically, but yet at the same time, humanize this whole assessment process to begin with, because it is onerous.
And without being reactive, just explaining why, you know, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there's actually something that that I learned about, and I just started this week, was asking my students to indicate on every one of their assignments, even a discussion, the role that AI played in generating it. If it's just human, then you tell me it's just human. And if it's human with AI help, tell me that. And if it's AI with human help, tell me that. And there's a resource that I came across that's what I was looking for right now. I'm sorry I can't find it, but it's timely, and I think, oh, I can get it right here. Hold on. I think it's empowering for us to say, actually, we're going to systemize this, and we're going to do it. Like, I'm not saying this is the end all be all, but I'm saying this is a great conversation starter. This attribution for AI project that I learned about. And so this is, if it's just made all by AI, just tell me, put this little badge on it. AI modified by human, put that on there so that we can, I'll put the link in the chat.
Thank you.
So that we can just have these conversations. This one also, because this is by a game designer, he's like, "Oh, are you making money from it?" And it was made by AI, so put that on there. I don't tell them that, but I do say, hey, if it's made by humans and AI modified it, and you know what, y'all, I put it on every one of my pages in Canvas now, because I use AI to help me write my Canvas courses. Of course I do.
Okay.
And so I'm modeling it every page.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
I do too. We can have another conversation about it later, Kelly, because it does really come down to that ethical piece, Terry, that you're talking about. And, you know, stripping away the shame that we all feel like we're cheating. It's like, no, actually, this is a really crucial partner in my thought process now.
Yeah.
So I'm not ashamed of it. I'm going to actually tell you how I'm using it.
Mm-hmm.
And shifting that culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
very much.
And you know what, Kate? Let's keep that in mind for the what do they call it? The AI committee or AI council. One that started with Greg Zubach, our associate provost with CETL. But you know, we're talking about right now the conceptual charges for this, and this is a great tool. I I nominated her to be on this committee.
Oh. And I
On
told
behalf
Kelly we
of
have to
the
do it together.
School of Education. Yes, alongside me. So she's going to be a great rep for all of us.
Oh, thanks.
Very much so.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, I'll just move us through. These are just some big ideas to kind of put a bow on on the top of all this. Here's some claims that AI should augment and not replace the deeply human aspects of SEL. And hopefully now you have some touch points of what that means. Engaging students in conversations about how AI can support their SEL needs. Just make sure that they see AI as a tool and not a crutch. Like I said, that artificial inspiration, I just love that so much. And I have to thank Howard personally, because he totally has shifted my thinking there. Or actually clarified my thinking. And the Castle competencies can really serve as this really valuable framework for teaching AI literacy in a way that, Kelly, to your point, I don't think a lot of people are thinking about. But if we're saying humans in the loop, why aren't we talking about healthy humans in the loop, right? So positioning SEL as a lens for AI literacy can help develop the students' emotional intelligence, their EQ, as well as, digital discernment. Just are they actually critically consuming this media and this content, or are they just taking it at face value? Mm-hmm. And lastly, the most effective applications of AI will always involve teachers, counselors, and mentors. It just will, because we are the humans that give context and the emotional nuance and the ethical guidance. And I think you all hit this before I even said it, but it's a really powerful place to kind of land. This is just the beginning of a really important conversation, many important conversations. So on that note, that's a wrap, friends. There's my contact. You all know where to find me, but here I am, and I am active on LinkedIn like no other. So please, if you're out there, connect, and I'll learn from you. And that's how Kelly and I met, actually, was through LinkedIn.
Really?
Thank you. I'm so happy to have had you this morning with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kate.
You're welcome.
Thank you all. All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.